30 for 30 podcasts are brought to you by Audible. With the convenient Audible app, you can listen to the world's largest selection of audiobooks and audio entertainment on any device, mobile, Alexa-enabled, Bluetooth, and more. Start listening with a 30-day Audible trial. Choose one audiobook plus 2 Audible originals absolutely free. Visit audible.com/30for30 or text 30 for 30 to 500-500. That's audible.com/30FOR30 or text the number 30FOR30 to 500-500.
From ESPN Films and ESPN Audio, you're listening to 30 for 30 podcasts. Mixed martial arts is one of the fastest growing sports in North America, and the Ultimate Fighting Championship is the biggest organization in the game. In 2016, the company was sold for a reported $4 billion. But the UFC didn't even exist 25 years ago. Most fans assume it all started with Dana White, the promoter and the face of the sport. But the story begins way before Dana was involved. This week, we go back to November 12th, 1993, when the UFC was born on a cold night in Denver, Colorado. Reporter Chris Berube tells the story in No Rules, The Birth of the UFC.
This is the moment UFC fans have been waiting for.
5-minute round. Here we go! One person walks out of that octagon.
The largest deal in the history of sports will officially be revealed to the world this morning by the UFC.
Good for the guys that sold it for 400, what is it, 2 billion?
Yeah,
4 billion.
4 billion.
$4
billion deal.
Can he finish it right here, right now? It's really clear who really took command of the octagon.
The Ultimate Fighting Championship, a sport born in our lifetime in the United States. When you think about it, pretty incredible. So how did it happen? It starts with this guy, Art Davie, a local car dealer in the 80s in San Diego.
You know, I was 27 years old. I owned a car dealership in San Diego. You know, I talked my way into getting lines of credit from people who probably thought, who the hell is this kid? Why are we giving him this money? You know, my job always was to come up with something and say, you know something? This is going to be big.
But Art wasn't just selling cars. He was also selling himself.
I did all my own stunts, jumped off a 10-story building, got shot with a .357 Magnum, got set on fire for my commercials.
Hurtling 25 feet through the air is a very big risk. You would not do it. Why take the same risk when you buy a new car?
So I was a guy that knew how to get shit done.
The car business was good, but Art had other plans. He says there's one scheme he's been thinking about for a long time. It started one day when he's a kid. He's on the beach, and his friend says, "Hey, Art, you're into boxing. This other guy, he's a wrestler." And they start talking. Who would win a fight, you or me?
So before you know it, we're sparring, and I end up on the sand. Man, it was like 22 seconds. It was over. I never forgot that.
So this idea starts running through his head. Say you put all the toughest guys in one room, and you get them to fight each other. Who would win?
Is it a boxer? Is it a sumo wrestler? Is it a judo player? Who is it? Is it somebody you never heard of? Is it some kid from Brooklyn, New York? Is it a farmer from Boise, Idaho? That's what I wanted to find out.
Art becomes obsessed. He thinks this is more than just an idea. This taps into something big and ancient and primal.
You're always looking for the one, the great white shark, the apex predator.
Fast forward a couple of years, now Art's working at an advertising agency, and he actually starts pitching this idea to clients. They all turn him down, but Art doesn't care. He starts looking deeper into this idea. He reads every book at the library about the history of fighting, and he finds actually there was something kind of like this in ancient Greece. It was called pancration. It's like a boxing-wrestling hybrid.
I had history behind me. For 1,041 years, it had been in the Olympics. This was no fluke. I was simply bringing back the glory of the ancient world. How could I go wrong? Come on.
Then he comes across an article from an old issue of Playboy. It's about a family jiu-jitsu school in L.A., the Gracie Academy, run by this guy, Rorion Gracie.
I came from Brazil to demonstrate the effectiveness of the martial arts that my father has perfected.
Art sees this and he thinks, these guys are too good to be true. Rorion Gracie and his family, they're fighting royalty, just not in America.
My father was the first sports icon in the history of Brazil. My dad, the number one ever, very famous.
Rorion's dad, Helio Gracie, was only 140 pounds, 5'9", but he used jiu-jitsu to fight much taller guys in front of thousands of screaming fans. On top of all of this, Helio Gracie fathered 9 kids. But despite his legendary fighting and his impressive fathering, nobody in America knew anything about the Gracies. Rorion is athletic, like his dad. He's slim, in ridiculously good shape. For a while, he had a Tom Selleck mustache. So Rorion's in LA, and he sets up the first Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy in America.
So 2-car garage in Hermosa Beach. I rented a house with a friend of mine. And nothing. I took everything out, painted the walls white, and put the green mats on the floor.
In this garage, Rorion starts teaching the patented Gracie fighting style. It goes something like this. First, you close the distance with your opponent, and you get them on the ground. Then, you finish them with a chokehold.
I grab a hold of the guys, put them on the ground lovingly, squeeze their necks carefully, slowly, and they twist their arms a little bit, they tap out. If the person does it right, it doesn't even hurt the neck. You just feel like gradually you start losing out. You feel very lightheaded, and before you know it, you're in the twilight zone.
Within a year, martial artists start coming from all over LA just to fight this guy. Taekwondo, Kung Fu, Karate. Rorion chokes them all out.
And because I didn't have to beat anybody to a pulp, the guys would say, wow, this is great. Can I learn? I say, sure, sign up.
Soon enough, Rorion opens a real studio, and word gets around.
The Gracies had a standing challenge for $100,000. They would fight you. No holds barred. No rules. And whoever wins, it's $100,000.
Never mind that Rorion Gracie might not have $100,000. He's too good. Art realizes this dream he's been carrying around, this guy can make it happen. So Art starts calling. He needs to meet Rorion. They set up a time at the brand new Gracie Academy.
It was all painted in doctor office colors, but upscale and bright.
So here comes Art. Neat hair, suit, tie. And Rorion, he's a little skeptical.
Art, he was like, what's the name of the guy? Joe Pesci's on Lethal Weapon, you know?
But Art wears him down. He comes in all the time for months. He helps Rorion market a videotape promoting the family called Gracie's in Action. It makes a bunch of money, and Rorion realizes this guy is pretty good at business. He can help bring my family to that big audience.
Art, you and I are going to work together in this project. So we partner up.
I said, we're going to do a tournament. Single elimination.
The world of karate against the world of kung fu, against the world of jiu-jitsu, against the world of judo. That was the concept.
This would be the tournament to end all tournaments. A prize fight to decide which discipline is the best. They'll call it War of the Worlds. A street fight to see who could beat up anybody. No holds barred.
And he said, maybe the only way to go about this, if you want to reach the masses, you got to go to television. And then I said, well, let's go to television then, you know.
So Art starts cold calling TV people.
Lou DiBella at HBO said, what else you got? I said, well, this is it. He said, well, call me back when you have something in the marital arts as opposed to the martial arts.
Showtime, they're also a no. ESPN, not interested. The networks, don't bother calling the networks. They get all the way down the list to a new company called Semaphore. They're an upstart, they put music and comedy on TV, and they're eager to take risks.
Interesting. So I call them up and I get Campbell McLaren on the phone.
And this was Art's pitch. Campbell. Showtime turned me down. HBO turned me down. NBC turned me down. Everybody turned me down. You're my last hope. And I go, that's the worst pitch I've ever heard. Tell me more.
They keep talking. Art gives the pitch,
The great white shark, the apex predator.
And he starts winning Campbell over.
Art had a great sort of enthusiasm that you couldn't help but catch. That a little bit P.T. Barnum and a little bit huckster and a little bit used car salesman, but he really was genuinely excited about it.
So Art comes to New York, and this is it. The only shot to get on TV. It's not going to be easy. Here's Campbell's boss, Bob Meyerowitz.
Art and Horion's business plan wasn't a professional business plan.
Art walks into this fancy Midtown New York office, and he knows, I have to win these people over, or else no TV, no tournament. And all he's armed with is a VHS tape, Gracie's in action.
Well, I showed the video.
It is a fact that most street fights will end on the ground. Here is an example that by knowing jiu-jitsu, you can subdue the opponent without having to hurt him.
Horion does not sound that enthusiastic in this video, but the moves on the tape, they are captivating. David Isaacs was an executive at Semaphore, and he saw that first presentation.
You hear Horion's voiceover, and then my brother's going to teach this guy a lesson, and then this little guy, beats the crap out of this much bigger guy.
As the opponent turns his back, it's time for the choke.
Their mouths open. They're pointing. They're elbowing each other. Look at this. Look at this.
And then we looked around. I remember I looked around in the office. It was filled with people. I mean, it was captivating. It was visceral. It was unbelievable.
And Bob's office is on the corner. He's got a corner office. And you walk into Bob's office, and he's got Cable Ace Awards on his credenza. He's got a golf putter there. And Bob's wearing a $1,000 suit, a $200 tie, and a $200 silk shirt.
After that meeting, they had a deal. From there, everything starts coming together. They managed to raise a couple $100,000 from Horion students. Semaphore helps them pick a new name because War of the Worlds is too science fiction-y. Now it's going to be called Ultimate Fighting Championship because nothing is bigger than Ultimate. They decide to hold it in Denver, Colorado. One reason, Colorado doesn't have a boxing commission, so fewer legal hurdles. And they can rent the local NBA arena for cheap. There was one more thing they needed to pull it all together. Fighters.
I remember going to some of the most famous martial artists I could get to. Dennis Alexio, who was in the movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme, kickboxer. And he said to me, "You doing what?" "That's a joke." He says, he hung up on me.
So we go to number 2, number 3, number 4. We keep going down the ladder. The invitation was there to everyone.
So Joe Pesci and Brazilian Tom Selleck set out to find the toughest guys on earth. At first, martial arts people were skeptical. Boxing people were even more skeptical.
He said, "You want to get a ranked heavyweight boxer to fight one of these boys in karate pajamas?" I said, "Yes, sir." "You chasing dreams." He said, you in a lot of trouble. He says, "You ain't going to find nobody in this business that's going to let you do that." He said, "But thanks for the call." All around the world, from Bangkok and Tokyo to Amsterdam, I sent everybody a letter. "Hello, come on, we're having this thing, join the party."
And they start getting results. A martial artist in Holland has this tip.
He said he provides the muscle on the street for the guys who run the raves, the brothels. He said he's been over and fought in Japan and in Bangkok. He said he's considered one of the toughest guys in Holland, bar none.
His name is Gerard Gordeau.
To want to fight in America in a cage without rules. And I say, okay, why not? I'm in good shape. It is my profession to fight. And they say, okay, when you have to fight, you have to fight.
Gordeau is in.
Kevin Rozier calls me up reading one of my ads in the magazine, and Kevin had held 3 different kickboxing titles. Sent me a picture of himself weighing 245. I said, "Kevin, you still weigh 245? He said, "Yeah, well, maybe I'm going to be about 265.
Turns out Kevin Rozier is actually 325 pounds.
He said, "I've never not been able to knock somebody out with Marianne." He called it Marianne, his big right hand.
So Rozier's in. Then Art calls up a guy who knows a lot about sumo in Japan. And that guy, he has a tip about a Hawaiian wrestler living in Japan named Taylor Tooley.
He's a real thorny problem. He said, "Got kicked out of sumo." I said, "How high did he get in sumo?" He said, "Makoshita." I said, "That's right below the top level." He said, "Yeah, the guy's good." He said he's 6'2", weighs about 420. He said he actually pushed a Japanese reporter into a plate glass window, and the glass broke, and he said it was an accident, and he's no longer fighting professionally in Japan. I said, "I like this guy already."
Maybe it sounds like Art Davies trying to pump it up.
That's Taylor. And he says, actually, he knocked a journalist over, but not through a window or a table. Whatever happened,